Hi everyone, Stepan here. Welcome to game 71. I'm finishing the analysis of my tournament games from Dubrovnik. And yeah, there were a lot of interesting positions. So I still haven't finished analyzing my round 5 game against International Master Plenkovic. Okay, let's focus on this game. I wanted to answer a question I got about 10 times in my Lichess inbox. When is my next tournament? My next tournament is starting on January 3rd, and I'll play it in Bošnjaci, a village in the east of Croatia. Okay. If you're like me and you think practicing against the engine is boring because it either crushes you or plays like an idiot, try playing against Noctie. Noctie is a human-like AI that's going to adapt to your strength, is going to play like a human, try to trick you like a human, and challenge you on your own level. Samuel, the creator and owner of Noctie, and I have come up with a promotion for this World Championship. You probably heard me talk about Noctie before, but I actually think it's a great way to study, and it makes not having a fanatic chess player next to you, well, less harmful to your chess training, and you can basically train as if you were training against a human. So we decided to do something for this World Championship. The first 10 people who sign up for Noctie with the code Hanging Pawns are gonna get personalized training routines, which I'm going to make. So I'm going to create a 1-month training schedule based on your abilities, based on your problems, based on what you and I think you should be studying. And yeah, if you would like me to do that, check out Noctie. Of course, you don't have to go for premium. It's a great product, even with the basic features. But the first 10 people who do decide to use the code Hanging Pawns are going to get training routines made by me. So if you do sign up, just email samuel@noctie.ai and he will know that you signed up and he will inform me. Okay, let's get back to the game. Okay, the Queen's Gambit declined exchange with the knight on f3. So I could play this with g6 and bishop to f5, which is actually, if you remember Ding Gukesh game, what was that, game 2 or game 4? They had this. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go for that. I think I'll go g6. So the main idea is not to allow a queen-bishop battery on this diagonal. So you go bishop f5, simply preventing that. As soon as white plays queen c2, you go bishop f5. If bishop f5 now, is there knight h4? Well, if knight h4, I can drop my bishop back and I win the bishop pair because of h6 and g5. So I think this works. So if knight h4, bishop e6, bishop d3, h6, bishop f4, g5. So my opponent would either have to lose a piece or take on f6, which seems good. Okay, now I obviously have to take. And I think the main way to play this is to go bishop e7 to unpin instead of bishop g7. So that's what I'm gonna do. Although there could be bishop h6. But there I have knight g4. Okay, I'm gonna go bishop e7. I think on On bishop h6, I can go knight g4, and on bishop g7, rook g8. And then obviously bishop e5 I can take and win the bishop pair. I haven't played this a lot, so I'm not too familiar with the plans. Okay, my opponent just castles. I could castle. I could also go knight d7. Knight bd7. I could also go knight e4. I think one of the main ideas is knight e4, knight e4, d4, bishop e7, simply fighting for the e4 square. But if I castle first, then it seems fine, because I just have rook e8. The idea behind bishop e7 instead of bishop g7. Okay, my opponent's starting a minority attack. Now I know that that's a plan, and I know that in most cases black ignores that and goes knight e4 anyway. So let's look at knight e4, d4, or knight e4, bishop e7, queen e7, knight e4, d4, queen, I don't know, c2. That seems very equal. On the other hand, I don't know whether I'd like to allow b4, b5, undermining my c-pawn. But then again, if b4 happens, then I go a6. And I could play knight b6, knight c4 as well. So for now, I'm not going to jump into e4. I'll just keep things flexible with knight d7. And on b4, I'll play a6 to prevent b5. Because for the moment, a4 would drop the pawn. Because I'm not forced to recapture on f6 with the bishop anymore. I can take with the knight. My opponent still has 15 minutes. And my opponent's rated 24-18. Okay. Haven't actually looked at my opponent's rating. Okay, let's go a6. Now, if I get enough time, I could play b5. Okay, my opponent's coming into c5 and also guarding the e4 square. So what if I go b5 now? b5, knight b3, knight b6, knight c5, knight c4, b5, e4, b5, e4 takes. I'm not a big fan of that. Maybe my opponent plays f3, e4. Well, in any case, e4 seems very dangerous, so I think I'll just ignore what my opponent's doing and go rook e8, because the bishop is still hanging, and e4 would allow queen takes e7. With the rook on e8, e4 is defended one more time. So that seems like a good idea. b5 always makes e4 easier to play because my c-pawn is weak and the center is collapsing. So if my opponent plays something like queen b1 or rook b1, I'll start worrying about a4, b5. Until then, I think I'll just play against e4. So let's say in this position, rook b1, knight e4, bishop e7, queen e7, knight e4, d4, queen c2. I don't think I should go f5, because queen b3 check is always an option if my d-pawn is gone. But I think I can hold on to my e-pawn fairly easily. I don't know if you guys have been watching the championship. Game 14 has just finished. Let me know what you think. Or it's actually just about to finish. It's a dead draw. Dingford, for some reason, had decided to go a pawn down to force a draw. I don't understand why. But okay. Rook c1. I do not understand rook c1. What does that do? Prevents b5. Okay, so let's look at knight e4. Knight e4, bishop e7, queen e7, knight e4, d4. If I could get my knight to d5, that would be great. So let's say queen c2, knight b6, or knight f6. And then knight d5. That seems very nice. Okay, I'm gonna go for that. And what if my opponent takes on e4 first? Knight e4, knight e4, d4, knight e4. Okay, that would lose. I think knight e4 has to be correct here. I have to challenge the e4 square. I don't get rook c1 because I don't have to play b5. In fact, rook c1 seems like a waste of time because it's very likely after bishop e7 that my opponent takes on e4, and then if I do manage to play knight d5, it seems that the e-pawn is going to be weak. I mean, my opponent doesn't have to take on e4. Okay, but he does. So my opponent's knight is going to be on c5. That much I can see. My knight's going to be on d5. And then my plan should be f5, f4. So the knight on d5 blocks the queen. Okay, but now there is a4. If I go knight b6, then a4, knight d5, b5, and everything gets traded off and my knight is unstable. But maybe I can go rook ec8. And then on b5 I can go c5. Does that seem possible? So rook ec8, a4. Let's say king g7, b5, c5. If ba, I have to take with the a pawn. I think I have to play for c5. So I'm gonna go rook ec8. And on a4, I may really play king g7. That's not a stupid waiting move, because I unpin my f-pawn. But I probably won't play king g7, because then queen c3 or queen b2. Especially after c5. Targets the dark squares. Okay. So what if I just go b6? So b6, b5, takes, takes on a1, takes on a1, c5. I mean, I could also get a past a pawn, but knight c4 always targets the b6 pawn. And there will be rook c6 ideas. So b6, b5, cb5, ab5, a5, knight c4. What if I go b5? b5 seems weird and bad, but if ab, I'm preventing knight c4. If a5, then I think my knight is relatively stable on d5, but my opponent plays knight c5. Might be a bit too committal. Okay, let's say king g7, b5, takes, c5. I think I like that best. I don't want to react. If I play c5, I'm going to be breaking down my opponent's center and making my pawn a bit more mobile. Also, if it's taken, it comes with tempo on the queen. If it's not taken, I take on d4. The sun came out, so it's really bright. I can hardly see my screen. Okay, so the question is, if I try to double my rooks, what's gonna happen? Give me just 1 second. Lucia, ne možeš molim te spustiti rolet? Užasno mi sunce ide. Lucia is going to drop down the shades. Oh, yes, much better. Thank you. Okay, so rook c7, b5, my c-pawn is pinned. Rook c7, b5, a b5, and their rook is loose, so b5 isn't playable immediately. So rook c7, rook ac1, rook ac8, b5, a b5, a b5, c5 seems okay. I can always move my knight to f6 to unpin, because my queen would then defend the rook. And all of my pieces are controlling c5, so I'm not really worried about b5. Although I may have given white a key tempo, because on c5, dc, knight c, there's queen c3, there is queen b2 check. So maybe king g7 wasn't a good move. Wow. Okay. That's a very, very committal decision. So my knight's kind of stuck, and my opponent likely wants to go c4. Yep. Okay, but I can go knight f6, knight c4, knight d5, and my rooks are defended, and on knight e5 I can play f6. Okay, so that seems reasonable. I just have to prevent c4 because my c-pawn is pinned. Also, knight d5 is going to be targeting... What? All right. I mean, now the rook is pinned because queen b4. Although queen b4 runs into an exchange in rook b1, but I do have knight d3. I'm not sure about this position at all. I feel like I should go f6, but maybe I should only go f6 once my opponent actually plays knight e5. Yeah, maybe I just need to start moving my f-pawn. Okay, let's play quickly. I'm going to get away from knight b6, and on knight e5 I'm gonna go f6. I feel like preventing knight e5 wasn't too necessary. I'm not hanging knight e5, f6, rook d5 because my rook is still defended by the queen. And I can also consider getting my knight to b5. Although I'm not too sure I would like to allow my opponent's d-pawn to move. So my plan definitely should be f5, f4. Undermining the structure and queening my e-pawn. But if I do that, there's knight e5, a permanent outpost. Okay, now let's go f6. Now it does seem scary. Now I've prevented knight e5 and unpinned, so d5 can never come with check. My opponent was probably thinking about knight b6, knight b6, a b6, rook d7, d5, where my c-pawn breaks down. Do I even have to take on knight b6? Probably. But I can always look forward to queen d8, and I don't see a way to defend that pawn. So if knight b6, a b6, rook d7, d5 takes, rook takes, loses a pawn. Also there's queen d8. f6 has weakened the 7th rank, so... Oh wow, okay. I mean, I am gonna take. So if d5 ever comes successfully, there will be rook c7, and that's very scary. So I have to play rook e d8 very soon, and I think I'm better. Because after rook e d8, rook d5, d5 isn't happening. The only thing I have to worry about is rook c7. If I don't allow rook c7, I'm fine. Probably better. I mean, I think I would always take black here, because... Okay, I have to play against d5, so rook d8. There may be b5 a pawn sacrifice, and on a b5 queen a7, but I'm not too worried. I could also just take with the c-pawn, and on rook c7 take, and go rook d7, but I'm not really a big fan of that. Okay, so rook d5. My opponent probably takes and goes rook c5. Rook d5, rook d5, rook d5, rook c5, queen d7, or queen d6. If takes, 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 c takes. That's a winning king and pawn endgame. Okay, when I play rook d5, nothing can go wrong anymore, because d5 has been prevented. And my next move is likely going to be queen d7. Okay. I guess f5. I mean, I'm going to defend my pawn. Why wouldn't I? And now I think I want to go rook d7, queen d8. I think knight b6 was very risky by my opponent. Because if the b pawn falls, I have a passed pawn on the a file after b6, a5. Okay. So let's go rook d7, non-committal. Oh, maybe my opponent does play b5 there. No, but on b5 I can trade rooks and take on b5. Okay, so that's fine. What I meant is on b5 I play rook c5, and cb5 to make sure the queen doesn't infiltrate. But then there could be queen c2. Yeah, I'm taking with the a pawn. I'm definitely taking with the a pawn. Rook a7 is less scary than rook c7. Okay. Okay, so let's take with the a pawn. Okay. So what happens if I do go queen d8? Aha, my opponent will be targeting the a pawn. Because on queen d8 there's rook d5, queen a7. Okay, king h6. If a7 falls, it's not gonna be with check. Of course, my opponent can never move the rook away from c1, I mean to any other file, because c5 drops. What? What am I missing? Queen b8, queen c7? But that doesn't work. Surely it doesn't work. Oh! Oh no! I did not see this. Yeah, I didn't see this at all. Very nice tactic by my opponent. But my queen is coming in. So queen b4, I'm expecting rook c1. Queen d2. Is there anything else? Can I do anything but come in with my queen? I don't think so. Okay. I mean, this should just be a draw, unless I'm very much mistaken. Oh no, because the rook comes back to c1. Jesus. What am I saying? Ah, okay, I can go queen d1. I don't have to go queen e2. Yeah, okay. Because my opponent's winning now. If I don't find a perpetual, it's just a passed b pawn. Okay, now it's a draw. I think my opponent has to repeat. I really don't see how letting the f-pawn go would be sustainable. I just had to prevent rook c2. Had I gone queen f1, my opponent would have gone rook c2 with a winning position. Yeah, I don't think there's a way out here. The queen and rook are completely offside unless something like rook g6 works, although I doubt it. Yeah, okay, so it's just going to be a draw. All right, I missed rook takes c6. That wasn't good, but luckily for me there was this perpetual idea. Okay, let's analyze. Maklan says, hi Stepan, have you considered diversifying your repertoire? Yes, I have, but I just don't play my tournament repertoire in these training games. Considering all your opening videos on YouTube, there should be plenty of knowledge to draw from. Yeah, I as you could have seen in my recent tournament recaps, I do play different stuff. I played the double fianchetto with white, so... Okay, e3. My opponent had one blunder, I had one blunder, so let's see. No game. Wait, this isn't theoretical anymore? Really? Wait, where? Okay, so I'm supposed to go bishop e7 first, I guess? Queen c2. Okay, now I go g6. Yeah. I need to wait for queen c2. I messed up the move order because then bishop f5 comes with tempo. But why is this wrong? Because of queen c2. Sorry, queen b3. So if my opponent had gone queen b3... Oh, I don't have queen b6. My knight's hanging. Okay, so that was a missed opportunity for my opponent. But now it's fine. Bishop e7. I should have gone b5. But rook f8 is fine. Knight e4 was a slight inaccuracy. I should have gone king g7 or b5 again. I didn't want to go b5 here because my c pawn is loose. But okay, still seems fine. Knight b6, yeah, that was my original intention, but I couldn't make it work. If knight b6, then a4. If knight d5, then b5, and white has to be better here. So what else do I do? Oh, queen e6? Wait, but that still seems bad. What if the queen moves and then b5? This is fine. How is this fine? Oh, there's some tactic with knight c3, I guess. Okay, I would still take white here. This seems very hard for black to play. Roughly equal, though. Okay. King g7 seems fine. Rook c7 seems fine. Okay, knight f6, knight d5, knight c4. Apparently everything's absolutely equal. We really haven't made too many mistakes. Yeah, I should have just defended my queen, and then the tactics wouldn't have worked. But I completely missed rook takes c6. So here. Wait, this is equal if I go f4, and queen b4 is losing? Why is queen b4 losing? Okay, so check. Queen d1. Oh, still rook c1. Nice. Yeah, okay. I didn't even see that. Because my opponent has a passed pawn on the 6th rank. It's just over. They can safely trade rooks. Because my rook's just hanging. I mean, I saw that my rook was hanging. I just didn't consider. Okay, nice. Yeah, now it's just a draw. Okay, congratulations to my opponent for a very good game. I mean, he found b5 and then this rook c6 idea, which I had missed. And luckily for me, he missed that rook c1 works here. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.